Hello, good afternoon. Today we have a super brief webinar. It's about the launch of AVXpress, a new function that's available on both EnGenius Cloud and EnGenius Fit. And I'll be giving you guys some updates as well on the new updates on EnGenius Cloud. So we have blasted some information on our social media pages about AVXpress, um, uh, RadSec, and other features that we have released. So let me get on with it. So if you have any questions, you can just use the Q&A function in Zoom or type in your questions under the chat function. So recently we have announced that we are now a certified access network provider for open roaming. So for those who are not familiar, open roaming is a wireless broadband alliance that teams up with multiple vendors, networking vendors, to come up with open roaming. That means if, for example, you're using open roaming certified brands, maybe from site to site, different locations, your access points, your networking products, your hotspot gateway service, you can easily have a roaming setup from one location to another. So this can work well with, for example, education deployments. Maybe if clients are roaming between different campuses that have the same configuration on the back end, you'd be able to freely roam between them. So if you need a list of all the open roaming partners, you can go to their website. Maybe later on we can share the link as well. So for configuration of open roaming, I'll show you the user interface in a while. It's pretty simple. So essentially, you just have to enable RadSec. So RadSec, what this does is it adds additional security over their radius encryption. So by default, if you're authenticating using radius, everything is sent in plain text. So if somebody has a packet sniffer, they might be able to sniff your username and password. If you have RadSec enabled, that would encrypt that information so that would be able to see what you're authenticating with, what you're keying in. So this applies across the board on all our access points. So if you are, for example, using HTTPS login, you can also use this with RadSec. And also you can upload certificates of your own. Let me show you the user interface on how to activate this. Give me a moment. So once you have logged in on EnGenius Cloud, by the way, open roaming support is only for EnGenius Cloud. We don't support this under EnGenius Fit. So under the SSID, you would see additional tabs that have been enabled. So one is Hotspot 2.0. By the way, we also enabled Hotspot 2.0 when we updated the system with RadSec. So Hotspot 2.0 can be used with wireless ISPs or telcos. So for instance, if you have a telcos that are looking for solutions for offloading 3G, 4G, 5G over wireless, we can easily integrate with them using Hotspot 2.0. Imagine, for instance, maybe in public spaces, public areas, their cellular base station may not be able to handle the load in such a very dense environment. So usually what the providers will do is to offload those cellular clients over wireless. Now, on the back end, they have their authentications. On EnGenius side, all they need to do is enable Hotspot 2.0 and point back to their server so that when the clients move in into the access point that's deployed by the same telco, they would automatically connect to the Wi-Fi without even having to authenticate. So immediately those clients would be offloaded over Wi-Fi, minimizing the usage over the base station. I'm pretty sure you have this experience wherein if you're in a public space, public spot, wherein there are a lot of clients or a lot of people, when you use your cellular connectivity, 3G, 4G, or 5G, sometimes you don't get data at all, even though you have full bars. That's because their base station is overloaded, and this is a perfect moment where you would need to offload those clients over Wi-Fi. A lot of telcos in different countries have implemented this, like for example in Singapore, wherein the MRT stations have APs deployed or shopping malls. So when the client moves into a public space, they will just automatically authenticate. So going back to RadSec and open roaming, so essentially if you're using let's say WPA2 enterprise or WPA3 enterprise, you have an option here called RadSec. So if your radio server supports it, if the backend system supports open roaming, all you need to do is enable that. If you do need to upload certificates, you can do that under organization and then security. So under security, this is where you can upload the certificate if required. So let me go back to my slide. Yeah, so today's webinar would be about the launch of AVXpress. We have released this, I believe, 2 weeks ago for EnGenius Fit. For EnGenius Cloud, we have updated the application and the portal to show AVXpress. I think about 2 days ago. So yeah, for AVXpress, what this allows you to do is to customize QoS for the network or the traffic. So previously, we have everything running on QoS by default based on QoS WMM or wireless multimedia. What this means that voice will always be the priority in terms of the traffic. Let's say you have mixed data on the network. You have voice, video, gaming, video streaming, and then the others are just like browsing the web. So usually voice would always be prioritized, and then video traffic, followed by browsing data, and then the rest of the background services. But it may not be applicable on certain deployment. Maybe for some sites who's concentrated on video calls, maybe it's a contact center. They need a lot of video calls, or maybe it's a sales department wherein they really need to prioritize video over internet traffic. So you can adjust it manually so that you can prioritize video. Maybe some of your deployments of your access points are for gaming devs, wherein they would need to utilize the bandwidth for gaming. So you can also prioritize that to reduce the latency over other services. So it's pretty easy if you configure it. We have sample applications per type of bandwidth or per type of data do you want to prioritize. It's as simple as enabling the button and then selecting which would you want to prioritize over any other traffic on the network. So later on, I'll go over the portal as well as the app because it's available both on the web portal as well as on the application. So both FitXpress and Genius Cloud to Go app are compatible for this function. So, like I mentioned, you are free to choose whichever you want to prioritize. But first, the voice calls will be fixed because we assume that that's the most important part of your network. So, yeah. So for AVXpress, what happens is if you have, let's say, a wireless access point and a switch on your network, and you enable AVXpress, immediately this would apply to your switches QoS rules as well. So no need to configure anything on the wired side. Once you enable AVXpress on your APs, and then your switches are on the same network, it would apply the same QoS rule. So everything would be consistent from the wireless side going to your wired side. We have some lab tests in terms of how much it reduces latency. So here, for example, without AVXpress using the default QoS configuration, which is not customizable, latency for some applications can be about 300 milliseconds. Then with AVXpress, by adjusting your priorities, then this reduced a lot to 100 Mbps. So 300 and 100 Mbps is a huge factor depending on what type of applications you're using. So let me show you guys how to enable AVXpress on first the web browser. Wait, let me go back to my other screen. Give me a moment. So EnGenius Cloud first. So here, if you go to SSID, back to your SSID profile, you can customize per SSID profile, by the way. So if some clients are on, maybe you have your staff SSID or guest SSID, and it's something else. So you can customize AVXpress per SSID. So for EnGenius Cloud, one of the tabs is application control. So under application control, first option is application aware. This is for layer 7 awareness. So by default, we have this enabled. Second is for AVXpress. So it's a very simple UI, which you can easily adjust and customize on your own. So here on the bottom part, we have a list of what are affected by voice calls. So these are your apps like Skype, Viber, etc. WhatsApp calls, and so on. Video conference is what we use. Like now we have Zoom, and then there's Teams, Google Meet. For streaming, those are your typical streaming services from YouTube, Netflix, and so on, which includes music streaming as well. And then for online gaming, those are the different services that use the gaming ports. So here on the system, depending on what you require, you can easily adjust. Let's say maybe you don't really need to prioritize video conference. Um, you can make that into a general priority. So voice call cannot be adjusted. So by default, they're always on Express. But typically on an environment, there wouldn't really be always a voice call unless necessary. So voice calls would always be on Express, so that would be the top priority. And then from then on, you can select what else. So others would mean like background services, Windows updates, iOS updates, and so on. And then from here, you can freely tweak depending on your environment. Which one do you need? Do you need voice conferences first? Do you want to prioritize streaming, or maybe for that specific environment, you really have to have the least latency for online gaming? Maybe it's a development center, it's a dev center for a gaming community. So common question is, well, what if I just set it all to express priority? So if you set it all to express, you might not have a good experience because, for example, if all the traffic runs at the same time, maybe you have a voice call and then you have a video conference call, somebody streaming doing online gaming, it's almost the same as not having AVXpress at all. So just adjust this tree accordingly based on what is required. So that's how we adjust it for EnGenius Cloud. Let me log on to FitXpress. So this is FitXpress Web. So the way that you adjust it is also per SSID. We also have a new tab here called Application Control, and then you have the similar menu that you have on EnGenius Cloud. So pretty easy to tweak. So currently we support all our products for AVXpress, so long as you have updated them to the latest firmware. So this can also be tweaked if you're using the Cloud2Go app or FitXpress app. So let me show you that. Let me just switch to my other screen. Hopefully screen mirroring is working. Just a minute. You guys see my phone, hopefully. By the way, this session is recorded. So later on, you can go to our YouTube page where I will upload a recording of this session, and also maybe next week on EnGenius Academy. So let me access FitXpress first to show you guys. Yeah, so FitXpress app is pretty much the same on how you access AVXpress. So go to Wi-Fi, select the SSID, and then from there, you have your on the bottom, you have application control, which has AVXpress. I'm not sure if you're seeing the mouse, but it's on this portion. So enable it, and then from there, you have the same menu, which you can easily tweak. So once you save that, that would save it on the AP, which would modify the default QoS WMM priorities. For EnGenius Cloud, it's also the same. So once you log on to the EnGenius Cloud app, select your network or the organization that you're managing, and then from there, head over to Wi-Fi on the bottom. Oops, sorry. So Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi tab is on the bottom, the fourth one, and then select your SSID. Again, this is per SSID, so you can configure it on 8 different SSID profiles if you have 8 SSIDs on your access point. Last tab would be application control. You have AVXpress there, and this is where you can easily edit it out. So yeah, in order to use AVXpress, again, just make sure that your access points are up to date in order for them to be able to utilize this AVXpress function. So yeah, if you do have EnGenius access points right now that are up to date, you can easily test it. Maybe try to stream some videos, try to do a ping test so that you can see whether your latency is improved by enabling FitXpress. Sorry, AVXpress. Yeah, so again, it's available for all our current product lineup. EnGenius Fit and EnGenius Cloud, both indoor and outdoor access points, can utilize AVXpress. Okay, are there any questions, guys? Okay, there's a question here. Does this feature require a pro license or is it available on basic as well? So one nice thing is that the AV Express function is available under our basic license. So your clients don't need to purchase any licensing or they don't need to be on pro to be able to utilize QoS or to be able to utilize AV Express. So regardless if they're using EnGenius Fit or EnGenius Cloud, straight away they will be able to utilize AV Express. Yeah, the way that we set up AV Express is quite straightforward so that your clients wouldn't have to tweak your firewall settings. They wouldn't have to go over your switch settings if you're also using Ingenious switches. It's just a simple, almost one, two, or maybe five-step control on your QoS settings to basically improve overall network experience. It would reduce latency a lot depending on what you want to prioritize, as well as improve bandwidth usage as well. In the past, in order to like reduce bandwidth per user, we would just rely on bandwidth limit. Maybe we can limit the traffic to like 5 Mbps per user, but sometimes it doesn't work, especially if there are clients that are just fully hogging the network. It can still affect the latency of the rest. So having this feature built in on our platform, I think would help a lot of our deployments as well. Okay, guys. Do you have any other questions? I'm sorry, I think I didn't enable chat. Let me enable it for everyone. Sorry about that. Okay, so if no more questions, do you guys have any other question about any other solution or products that we have for Genius? One question here: does the Wi-Fi 5 model also support AV Express like ECW 120 and 160? Yeah, they also do support AV Express. Okay, if no more further questions, I guess that's it for today's session. The next webinar would be, if I'm not mistaken, about our EOC series. So last time I gave you guys introduction on the previous webinar. So the next webinar about the EOC would be a walkthrough on the different software packages that we have. Like for example, SkyPoint, we have the locator for EOC, we have the application for EOC, and the link planner as well. So I'll be going through those features. There's a question here about the price for Fit in Cloud. So AV Express itself is a function built in on the system, so there are no additional costs to that. But if you're interested on the price of our access points, you may approach our resellers or distributors so that they can give you more information about EnGenius Cloud and Fit pricing. We enable AV Express in one band like 2.4. Yeah, so AV Express applies on your SSID. So that means if, for example, your SSID only has 2.4 enabled or 5 gigahertz enabled, or maybe both, you can have AV Express applied on either. You're welcome. So yes, again, this webinar is recorded. I'll be uploading it on YouTube by the end of the week, and then maybe next week it will be uploaded on Ingenious Academy as well. Last question here, is AV Express an access point? No, AV Express is a feature that we have on our access points. So it fully incorporates on all our solution, EnGenius Cloud and EnGenius Fit. And it's something that can help you tweak your QoS priorities to enable or to give priority over certain applications. For example, streaming, video calls, or maybe gaming. If you want to see an improvement on the latency, even when you have mixed applications that are being used side by side or simultaneously, you would be able to prioritize certain apps in order to have the best latency and bandwidth possible. So yeah, thank you guys for attending today's session, and we'll catch you in the next. Have a good day, everyone. Bye bye.